Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today in this video, I'll be explaining you JavaScript operators, and this is going to be the sixth video of my JavaScript playlist. So as we have already covered till this part, like I have already completed the JavaScript variables, that is let var and const, and also I had a video where I have explained some output based questions based on let var and const. So today I'll be explaining you the JavaScript operators. So as you can see, we have different types of JavaScript operators like the arithmetic operator, assignment, comparison and all. So we have this much type of operators. So today in this video, particularly, I'll be covering your arithmetic operators. So in my upcoming videos, I'll be covering each of the operators. So for now, I'll be focusing on this arithmetic operators only. But first thing first, what do you mean by operator? What operator actually is? So let me explain you that first. So let's say we simply have let a is equal to 5. Whereas we have let a is equal to 5. So here in this part, your equal to sign, this is simply your operator, and these two, your a and 5, are your operands. And if I talk about your a and your 5, these are your operands. Similarly, let's say, so as we have let c is equal to a plus b. So this time, your equal to symbol and this plus symbol, these two are your operator. So your C, your A and B are simply operands. Now let's start with our arithmetic operators. So now let's start with our arithmetic operators. So these are your arithmetic operators like your plus symbol, minus, exponentiation, division, your modulo, your modulus, and then increment and decrement. So let us see them one by one. So if I talk about these three, I don't think you all need explanation for this. Let me just simply have these three first. So let's say we simply have let A that is equal to 10, then again let B that is simply 5. So for addition, we will simply need to have A plus B. Then for subtraction, we will simply have your A minus B. Then again for multiplication, it would be simply A into B, right? So this will add two numbers, this will subtract, and this will multiply. No issues, right? So let's see their output first. See, first we have simply the addition, then the subtraction, then simply 10 into 5. So no issues, right? So now let's see. So now let's see your exponentiation. So let's say we have a that is equal to 5. So simply let's say we need to have the square of this. That is simply, let's say we need to have 5 into 5. So we will write simply a exponentiation 2. So this will be equivalent to this simply 5 into 5. Okay. So let's say we want to have simply the cube, that is 5 into 5 into 5. So that time, instead of 2, we will simply write a exponentiation 3. So this will be equal to simply this 5 into 5 into 5. So see, we got 125. So the next operator is simply your division operator. So this time, so we will see this two, division and your modulus. at once only. So what it does, let me first explain a bit about these two. If I talk about division operator, it is simply, so it simply returns the quotient. So that means, let's say if you have two numbers, let's say if you have 10 and you are dividing 10 by 2 simply. So that time what you will do, you will simply have 2, 5 times 10, that will give 0, right? And as you know, this 5 is your quotient and this 0 is your remainder, right? So this division operator simply returns the quotient, that is 5 in this case. And if you had the modulus, that is simply this. So this will return your remainder. So now let's take one examples of each. So let's say again, if you have A10 and let's say B2. So for this case, your output should be simply 5Z. You got the question for this. And let's say if I want to have the remainder, that is simply 0. So that time, what I will do, I will simply have A modulus B. So this time I'll be getting the remainder. See, I got 0. So now let's see the next type of operator, that is simply your increment and decrement. So these two operators are the most confusing operators. Most of the beginners often get confused on this operator, and even some of the senior developers also get confused in these operators. So pay very attention to this. So let me first explain you a brief about these two. Then we will see them with examples. So this is simply called as your increment operator. And what it does, it simply increments any value by 1. So if you have simply A as 5, and if you increment this, let's say if you do plus plus A, your value will get incremented to 6. Or if you do simply A plus plus, so this time again, your value would be simply 6. So here in the left hand side, I have used plus plus A, and in the right hand side, I have used A plus plus. So why I did this? Simply, so this thing is known as your simply prefix, and this thing is known as your postfix. And we will also have the same thing for our decrement operators, that is simply your minus minus. If again I have simply A is equal to 10, then that time again if I do minus minus A, so this time your value will get decremented by 1 simply. It will be 9. And if I do A minus minus, then also your value would be simply 9. And this thing, again your prefix, and this thing, your postfix. But if both, that is your prefix and postfix, are doing the same thing for your increment as well as for your decrement, then what is the actual difference between this prefix and postfix? Why do we write sometimes plus plus A and sometimes A plus plus, or maybe for your decrement minus minus A or A minus minus? So let me explain you a bit also. So now pay very attention to this part. This might confuse you initially, but if you will pay attention, you will have a better understanding of this. So your prefix says simply first increment, then use. So your prefix says first you need to increment the value and then you can use the incremented value, right? But for your postfix, it says first use the value, then simply increment the value. So your prefix says first increment or decrement the value, then simply use the value. But for your postfix, it says first use the value, then after using the value once, then increment or decrement the value. So if you are confused about this, no need to worry. This thing will get cleared when we will have few examples based on this part. So just for now, remember this thing, this theory. We will simply have few examples based on this theory that will clear our doubts. So let's take our first example. So let's say we have simply a that is equal to 5 and simply let's say we have simply y that is equal to plus a, and let's simply have their values printed. So let's console log y, then simply console log our a. So what will be the output of this? So here we have a that is equal to 5 and here we have y that is equal to plus a. So we have plus a, that is your prefix. So what it says? It says first for your increment, it says first increment your value, then simply use the value. So simply if we first increment the value of this 5, it would become 6. So your a will be 6 and your y will also be 6. So your output will be simply 6 and 6 for both. See, no issues, right? A very simple example, no issues. So let's have one more example. Let's say again, instead of this, we again simply have a equal to 5 and simply x that is equal to a plus and your y that is plus a, and again have their values printed, right? That is x and simply y. So now as for the x, we have your postfix as we have a plus. So it says first use the value. So we have the value of a as 5. So if I use the value first, that is 5, so your x will be simply 5 as we have postfix and it says use the value first. So we used 5. So your x became 5. But after using this 5, it says first use the value, then increment or decrement the value. So we used the value 5 here. So it would have incremented by simply 1, that is a would have become 6 this time after using. And now here we have your prefix. So it says first increment or decrement the value. So simply as we have plus a and here we have a equal to 6. So if I first increment the value, a will become simply 7, and then it says after incrementing or decrementing the value, use that value. So if I use this value, y would be simply 7. So for your x, your output would be 5, and for your y, it should be 7. See, for x we have 5, and for y we have 7. So now let's understand our decrement operator. So this time again, let's have first a basic example. So again, a5, and let's say your y is simply minus minus a. And again, if I try to have the value of both, so just try to guess the output. So again, here we have a, that is equal to 5, and here we have your prefix. So again, your prefix says first increment or decrement the value. So as we have decrement, so first we will decrement this by 1. So a would be simply 4, and first we have decremented. So the next step is simply use the value. So y would be simply 4, as after decrementing it, a became 4, and then to use, y became 4 again. The output should be simply 4 for both. See, no issues, right? So let's again have a slight complex example. Let's say b is equal to 5, and we have x that is equal to b minus minus, then again y that is equal to minus minus b. So again, let's have both of the x and y's value. So again, we have the value of b as simply 5. Here we have postfix, that is b minus minus. So again, for your postfix, it says first use the value. So we have 5 already. So it says first use the value, right? So your x will use the value, that is simply 5. Then it says after using the value, increment or decrement the value. So again, after using, we will simply decrement, that is b was 5, now b will become 4. We first use the value 5, then we decremented it by 1, and here we have prefix. So again, for prefix, it says first increment or decrement the value. So your b was 4. Now if we decrement, your b will be simply 3. And again, after incrementing or decrementing the value, simply use that value, right? So to use the value, y would be simply 3. So your final value would be simply 5 for your x and 3 for your y. See, we got 5 for x and 3 for y simply. So I hope now you have got a good idea of your increment and decrement operator, as well as your postfix and simply prefix, right? So yes, that's it for this video. I hope you understood about the arithmetic operators in JavaScript in a much better way. That's it for this video. See you all in the next one. Till then, take care.